They're walking into a dinner thinking I'm the family dropout and have no idea they're stepping into my world. My name is Noah Mitchell. I'm 34 years old. I live in Austin, Texas, and I own McClellan's, the steakhouse my family unknowingly chose for our reunion dinner. They don't know that yet. As far as they're concerned, I'm still the black sheep who left home with grease under his nails and nothing but a pipe dream about fixing cars. The call came on a Tuesday evening. I was elbow deep in a custom paint job for a '69 Mustang when my phone buzzed. Adam, my younger brother. I stared at the screen, wiping my hands on a rag like the smudges on my palms would somehow make the decision easier. 5 years. That's how long it had been since any of them had reached out. I answered. "Hey, Noah," Adam said, too cheerful, like he was trying to smooth over years of silence with one sentence. "Listen, we're doing a little family dinner thing Friday night. Vanessa's engaged and she wants everyone there. Big night. You should come." I waited. No apology. No, "How have you been?" Just a dinner invite from the same people who once laughed when I said I was opening my own shop. "Where?" I asked. "McClellan's," he said, like it was just another restaurant. I almost dropped the phone. Of all the joints in Austin, they picked mine. I kept my voice even. "I'll be there." "Great," Adam said, sounding surprised. 7 sharp. Dress nice. Vanessa wants it elegant." I hung up and sat there for a second, the irony wrapping around me like smoke. They don't know. They really don't know. A year ago, when the original owner of McClellan's retired, I made a quiet bid. No fanfare, no press, just cash I'd earned turning busted rides into beauties. I rebuilt the place with the same grit I used to pull my life together, from the custom hardwood floors to the wine list I obsessed over for months. I never told my family. They didn't care where I ended up, not when I walked away from business school, from the path they carved for me, not when I missed Christmas or birthdays or Vanessa's graduation. As far as they knew, I was still living paycheck to paycheck, chasing some childish dream in a grease-stained shirt. But this Friday, they'd walk into the restaurant thinking I was the same loser they left behind. They wouldn't realize until the end that the menu, the wine, the ambiance, hell, the very floors under their feet all had my fingerprints on them. And for the first time in years, I wasn't nervous about seeing them again. I was ready. I parked across the street from McClellan's, staring at the building like I was seeing it for the first time. It looked good tonight. Warm lights glowing through the front windows, a steady buzz of laughter, and clinking glasses behind the glass. My place, my team, my menu. And they had no clue. I straightened the cuffs of my charcoal blazer, clean lines, nothing flashy, then adjusted the collar of my black dress shirt. No tie, just enough to pass their inspection, not enough to look like I was trying. I stepped onto the sidewalk and walked in through the front like any other guest. The maitre d' Elise caught sight of me instantly. Her eyes widened, then flicked toward the dining room. "They're here?" she mouthed. I nodded once. "Play it normal," I said under my breath. She gave the smallest of nods and turned back to the podium just as a new couple walked in. My staff was smart. They'd follow my lead. No hints. No reveals. Not yet. I passed the bar, where Marcus, my bartender, froze mid-pour before recovering. I gave him a barely there nod, and he went right back to shaking martinis like nothing had happened. My crew knew me well. We didn't need words. The family was posted at the big center table, just like I knew they'd be. Mitchell's always had to be seen. Vanessa was holding court at the head, dolled up in a white dress like she was trying out bridal looks ahead of schedule. Her fiancé, Jordan, I think his name was, sat beside her, gesturing wildly with a half-full glass of red and talking over everyone else. My mom was dabbing at her lipstick with a napkin, giving side glances to the waitstaff like she was already drafting a Yelp review. My dad, pressed shirt, no jacket, just like always, stood as I approached and stuck out a hand like we were business associates, not family. "Noah," he said with that same tight smile I remembered from every job interview prep he forced me into. "Glad you could make it." I shook his hand, matching his grip. "Wouldn't miss it." "Still working in, what is it, automotive?" he asked, already pulling out his chair again. "Something like that," I said, sliding into the empty seat across from Vanessa. She looked up from her wine, blinked once, then gave me a quick smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Wow, I didn't expect you to show up on time." "I came early," I said. "Wanted to see the place." Jordan laughed. First time at McClellan's? This place is unreal. Someone said the chef used to work in France. Did he? I asked, hiding my smirk. Sounds like a real professional. Vanessa tilted her head. You clean up nice. Usually you show up looking like you crawled out from under a car. I smiled. Figured I'd try to fit the vibe. She shrugged and went back to her menu. The waiter approached with a bottle of wine, a 2016 cab I hand-selected for the menu after tasting over 24 blends. He poured it with care, hitting every detail I'd trained him on. Vanessa lifted her glass and toasted. To family, she said, and new beginnings. Glasses clinked, even mine. I raised it, looked around the table, and took a sip. Not bad. Held up well. Subtle smoke, dark cherry. It tasted like a quiet victory. They had no idea they were toasting with my wine. I looked around the table, the perfectly folded napkins, the centerpiece candles, the curated playlist humming in the background, and felt something settle deep in my chest. They thought they were in control. Still saw me as the dropout, the mechanic, the mistake. But I was the one who made this night happen, and soon they'd know exactly whose table they were sitting at. The menus hadn't even been taken away before the questions started. So Noah, my mom said, adjusting the silverware like it had personally offended her. What is it you're doing these days? I could feel her eyes scanning my clothes again, probably calculating how much I'd spent on the blazer. Not enough for her standards, probably. I run an auto shop, I said casually. Custom builds, restorations. Vanessa didn't bother hiding her smirk. So you're still doing oil changes and tire rotations. Jordan leaned in, grinning like he was joining in on a family inside joke. Hey, that stuff's important. Somebody's got to do it, right? I didn't respond right away. I just smiled politely and took a sip of water. My dad cleared his throat. Well, there's always a need for good trade workers. Hands-on jobs keep the world moving. Not glamorous, but respectable. That was the Mitchell way. Insult disguised as encouragement. I could practically hear the subtext. At least you're not homeless. I nodded like it didn't bother me. It's good work, I said. Teaches you a lot. Like what? Jordan asked, leaning back in his chair. How to siphon gas from a lawnmower. Vanessa laughed. My mother didn't even pretend to disapprove. I opened my mouth to respond, but just then, the first course arrived. Smoked short rib sliders on handmade brioche buns. My recipe. One I'd spent 3 weeks refining until the flavor hit just right. A little smoke, a touch of bourbon glaze, a pickled onion to cut the richness. The waiter placed a plate in front of each of them and vanished before anyone noticed the nod I gave him. Vanessa picked one up, gave it a half-hearted sniff, then set it back down untouched. I don't eat red meat anymore, she said flatly. Since when? My mom asked, her voice sharp with annoyance. Since like a month ago, Vanessa said. Jordan and I are trying to be cleaner. No red meat, no dairy. Right, Jordan said, already halfway through his slider. But I'll make an exception now and then. He took another big bite, then frowned. Little overcomplicated, don't you think? It's like it wants to be barbecue, but it also wants to be fancy. My dad grunted his agreement. It's trying too hard. Vanessa wrinkled her nose. Brioche on a slider is kind of extra. Could have used more seasoning, too. Every word landed like a jab. They didn't know it, but they were critiquing me. My food, my taste, my work. And I let them. I watched as Jordan scraped the slaw off with his knife. My mom dabbed her lips like she was trying to erase the flavor. My dad picked at the bread and left the meat. Every bite they insulted had come from my hands. I leaned back and let them talk. I'd heard all of this before. Different words, same judgment. Too much. Not enough. Never quite what they wanted. I glanced down at Vanessa's untouched slider. 3 weeks I spent perfecting that dish, and she couldn't be bothered to take one bite. I stared at the candle flickering between us and swallowed the burn building in my throat. Not from anger. Not exactly. Just the same old ache. You give, and still it's never enough for people who already decided you're less. But that was fine. Let them talk. Let them chew and sip and smirk. Every course that followed would be mine too. And soon, the truth would hit harder than anything they were tasting tonight. The second the waiter cleared the plates, my mother turned toward me with that careful tilt of her head, the same one she used whenever she was about to pretend she cared. So, she said slowly, are you seeing anyone these days, Noah? There it was, like clockwork. Not even one full course in, and we were already digging through my personal life. Not at the moment, I said, sipping my water. Well, she continued, undeterred, you know Melanie's daughter? She's back from grad school, very grounded, teaches Pilates and does PR work now. Great combo, I said. She sounds busy. She's stable, my mother said pointedly, and polite. Jordan leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table like he was about to make the toast of the night. You'd need to date someone pretty understanding to bring them somewhere like this, huh? This place has got to be brutal on the wallet. Jordan, Vanessa said in a warning tone, but he kept going. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's gorgeous, but what's a meal like this run? A couple hundred a head? Don't tell me you're dating the owner, he laughed. Unless she's 80 and rich. The table laughed with him. Except me. My smile stayed, but something in me shifted. It wasn't rage, just a quiet disappointment. The kind you only feel when you realize people still see you the exact same way they did a decade ago. Yeah, I said lightly. Wouldn't that be something? Right on cue, the waiter arrived with the second course. Cedar plank grilled trout laid across a smear of preserved lemon puree, topped with fennel and a single sprig of fried thyme. A quiet, elegant dish, one I spent 6 months perfecting. Vanessa poked it with her fork like it might bite her. Jordan sniffed it and gave a thumbs up to no one in particular. Now this I can get behind, he said. Fish is always a safer bet. My mom took a small bite, chewed slowly, and nodded like she was judging a contestant on a cooking show. Better than the first one, she said. They didn't know I'd designed the menu from scratch. They didn't know I'd trained the chef who plated this exact dish every night. And they sure as hell didn't know I'd spent 4 years learning the ins and outs of fine dining. After clocking out from the garage and going straight into kitchen shifts, for a mentor who took a chance on me. But now they were dissecting every bite like they were food critics, doing me a favor by showing up. Honestly, Jordan said between bites, I wouldn't even be surprised if this place gets a write-up soon. It's got that upscale but trying to look casual vibe. You know, the kind of place you come to impress someone but pretend you didn't try too hard. I looked across the table at him and nodded. You've got a real eye for nuance. He missed the sarcasm completely. Thanks, man. Then he squinted at me. But seriously, how can you afford this? Did your shop blow up or something? Or are you just maxing out credit cards to keep up appearances? He chuckled. Don't worry, I've been there. The rest of the table laughed again, small, amused sounds that barely disguised their suspicion. I cut into my trout. Let's just say I know the right people. Oh, my mom said. You're not getting charity, are you? Of course not, Vanessa cut in. He probably got one of those small business grants during the pandemic. My dad finally looked up from his plate. Just be smart about how you spend, son. It's easy to make money look bigger than it is. I set my fork down like my appetite gone. They were sitting in a restaurant I'd built with my own hands, eating food I'd spent years learning to create, and they still couldn't imagine I'd done it without help. In their eyes, success was always borrowed when it came to me. And they didn't realize that tonight they were the ones eating on my dime. Every bite, a line item in the life they thought I could never afford. The room had taken on a lazy hum by the time the third course arrived. Clinking forks, low conversation, someone's laughter from another table. It was the kind of buzz I used to dream about when I first took over McClellan's, energy without chaos. But at our table, something sharp still lingered. Jordan pushed his half-eaten trout away and flagged the waiter. Hey, sorry, he said with a smile too big to be sincere. Can I get this, properly cooked? It's kind of soft in the middle. I need it firmer, real cooked. I caught our head chef, Luis, pausing mid-step near the kitchen door. He turned toward me, eyebrows raised in that silent check-in we'd perfected over 100 shifts. I gave a slight shake of my head. Not yet. Let them keep digging. Of course, sir, the waiter said, lifting Jordan's plate with careful hands. No pushback, no smugness, just professionalism, the kind I'd spent months teaching. Jordan turned back to the table like he'd just done something heroic. I mean, I get the whole delicate flavor thing, but sometimes chefs just undercook things to sound fancy. Vanessa nodded. Honestly, yeah, that's what you get in places like this, form over function. I gripped my napkin under the table. My mom said, setting her wine down, I've been meaning to ask, have you thought about taking out a loan? If you're eating at places like this, I assume your finances are stretched. I raised an eyebrow. You assume that, huh? She shrugged, trying to appear concerned. It's not a bad thing. You're trying to live a little. But just be careful, Noah. Things like this, she gestured around the restaurant, can get out of hand quickly. If you need help managing it. You mean if I'm about to ruin myself, I said quietly. My dad leaned in. We're just saying, don't bite off more than you can chew. These places, the bills, the image, they can bury a guy if he's not ready. Jordan raised his glass. Hey, I've seen it happen. A guy opens a place like this with no clue how restaurants really work, and boom, bankrupt before the year ends. You gotta know when to ask for help. My mom smiled faintly. And that's what family's for. The irony just sat there, thick in the air. None of them had helped me once. Not when I maxed out my savings to build my food truck. Not when I slept 3 hours a night juggling garage hours and kitchen shifts. Not when I broke down crying in the back alley the night we nearly lost our liquor license over a paperwork error. But now they were offering help, as if I'd only just stumbled into this place. Clueless. As if I hadn't earned every damn square foot of it. My dad glanced at the waiter and raised his hand. We'll take the check. The waiter froze for a half second, eyes darting to me. Jordan leaned back with a grin. I've got it, he said smoothly. Big night for the family, right? My mother beamed. That's very generous of you, Jordan. Hey, he said, raising his glass again. Gotta show the little guy how it's done. Little guy. I smiled. The waiter gave me one more quick look. I nodded. Game on. They thought they were about to pick up the tab on a fancy night out. They had no idea they were about to pay for a seat in my house. Let them carry on just a bit longer. Because when the bill landed, when they saw what they'd actually walked into, every smug laugh, every sideways jab, every assumption would come crashing down, and I'd still be sitting here, perfectly calm, watching the walls of their comfort close in. The bill landed like a feather, soft, silent, almost polite. But the moment Jordan picked it up, the weight of it hit him like a truck. He blinked, then blinked again. Hey, he said, holding the leather folder slightly away from his body like it might explode. Is this right? My dad leaned in. What's the damage? Jordan's lips moved as he recalculated, quietly mouthing the numbers. $3,612. My mom's eyes widened. That can't be right. There must be a mistake, Vanessa said quickly, turning to the waiter. We didn't order that much. The waiter, bless him, kept his face completely neutral. Everything has been accounted for, ma'am. You had the wine pairing, 2 upgraded entrees, dessert flights, and specialty cocktails. The cost reflects your selections. Jordan was still stuck on the number. Are you sure the fish didn't come with a golden ticket? Would you like me to bring the itemized breakdown? The waiter asked calmly. Jordan held up a hand. No, wow. And then came the moment. The waiter glanced at me as planned. Actually, the food portion has already been covered, he said. Everyone froze. What? My mom asked. He repeated, slow and clear. The food has been taken care of by the owner. Silence dropped like a curtain. Vanessa looked around. Wait, what owner? We don't know anyone here. I let the silence stretch. Then I nodded. That would be me. 6 words, that's all it took. Vanessa's mouth fell open. Jordan stared at me like I'd just grown a second head. My mom blinked. My dad looked down at his wine like it had betrayed him. I leaned back in my chair and folded my hands in my lap. Welcome to McClellan's, I said. My shop, my kitchen. The shock was delicious. Vanessa set her napkin down slowly, like she was trying to reverse time. Wait, you own this place? For about a year now. But how? She asked. I shrugged. Work, patience, a few smart decisions. Jordan let out a single, stunned laugh. You've got to be kidding. I turned to him. Still think I'm maxing out credit cards? He didn't answer. My dad finally spoke. You bought this place? Last fall, I said. After running the kitchen for almost a year and turning profits higher than the previous owner ever saw. He retired. I stepped in. Vanessa was still gaping. All those dishes, mine. The wine. Handpicked, every bottle on that list. Jordan looked down at the table, then at his half-eaten trout. So when I said, yeah, I said, I heard every word. My mom stared at me like she didn't recognize the man sitting at her table. Why didn't you say anything? Because you weren't asking. No one moved. Even the noise of the restaurant seemed to dull in the background, like the room had shrunk around us. I thought I was just the mechanic, I said. The dropout. The disappointment. Noah, my mom whispered, but I cut her off with a small shake of my head. Tonight, you came here thinking I was still fixing beaters in someone else's garage. You had no idea you were walking into something I built. Vanessa looked down at her plate. Jordan reached for his glass, then pulled his hand back. My father just nodded once, slowly, like he was seeing me clearly for the first time in a very long time. I stood and straightened my blazer. Thanks for coming, I said. I hope you enjoyed the meal. And then I walked away, leaving them at the table, stunned, speechless, and finally, quiet. They caught up with me before I made it 10 feet from the table. Noah, wait, Vanessa called, her heels clicking behind me. I turned around slowly. The whole table had followed me toward the side hallway near the bar. The restaurant buzzed on, unaware that the Mitchell family was in the middle of a full-blown identity crisis. How? She asked. When did this happen? I looked at all of them. The people who'd spent years talking down to me, calling me hands-on, like it was a disease. You really want to know? They nodded. Even Jordan looked humbled now, standing a little behind Vanessa like a kid called into the principal's office. Fine, I said. You want receipts? Here they are. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, steady. After I walked out of Dad's big business talk back in 2019, I began, I went back to working in the garage. I kept my head down, fixed what I could, saved every damn dollar. My mom opened her mouth to say something, maybe to justify that business talk, but she thought better of it. 2 years in, I'd saved enough to buy a beat-up food truck. It was garbage, but I knew a guy who owed me a favor. We patched it up, fitted it with a grill, and I started selling fusion sliders out of a church parking lot. That was you? Adam finally spoke for the first time all night. The one with the bourbon short rib sandwiches? I nodded. Yeah, that line down the block, that was mine. My dad looked away. My mom blinked like she was doing the math in her head and didn't like the answer. I did that for a year, I continued. After closing the shop each night, I'd prep ingredients, run the truck till midnight. I worked 7 days a week. No vacations. No help. Vanessa crossed her arms. You did all that alone? I gave her a flat look. Who else was offering? No one spoke. Eventually, a local investor came by. A guy named Warren, who owns 3 properties downtown, said he liked the food, liked the hustle, offered me a chance to take over McClellan's after the old owner started looking to sell. Warren Oaks? Jordan asked, stunned. That guy has a waiting list 2 years long. Not if you show up at 4 a.m. every day and serve him trout that makes him shut up mid-sentence. Vanessa stared at me. You trained as a chef? Not formally, but yeah. I shadowed a guy named Marcel, French-trained, ran a place in New Orleans. He saw something in me, took me in part-time. I learned, watched, failed, got better. My mom shifted uncomfortably. Why didn't you ever tell us? I looked at her. Would you have listened? Or would you have told me to come back home and get serious? She didn't answer. I designed every dish you ate tonight, I said. I picked the glassware, the paint on the walls, the music playing in the background. I hired every server and trained every cook. My father looked me in the eye for the first time since I dropped the bomb. You did all this, without any help from us? Not a dime, I said. Not a single favor. I even kept my name off the ownership paperwork for the first 6 months just to keep it quiet. Vanessa exhaled like she'd been holding her breath. My mother, voice thin, said, Well, we're just so proud of you. But she couldn't look me in the eye when she said it. And that said more than anything else. I didn't do this for pride, I said. I did it because I wanted a life I could stand behind. One that didn't come with conditions or shame or family favors I'd have to repay at every holiday dinner. They were quiet now. Not out of guilt, maybe, not yet, but out of realization. I had done everything they thought I couldn't, and they were just now starting to grasp what that meant. The silence didn't hurt anymore. It felt like space, the kind you need when you finally start breathing for yourself. They didn't leave right away. They hung around the bar area, suddenly softer, suddenly interested, like they were all trying to catch up to a story they'd never bothered to read. My dad was the first to speak again. Noah, he said, clearing his throat. This place, it's impressive. Really, maybe we got off on the wrong foot tonight. I waited. He continued. If you're thinking of expanding, franchising maybe, your mother and I, we'd be open to helping. We could invest, give you some real backing. I almost laughed. You want to buy in now? I asked. He nodded. It's not about control. Just, we could help you scale this, bring it to Dallas, maybe Houston. I already have plans in motion, I said calmly. I don't need your money. Jordan stepped forward, still a little rattled, but trying to regain his swagger. What if I introduced you to some people in hospitality circles? I've got friends who handle branding for chains. You could really blow this up. I'm not looking to blow it up, I said. I'm building something that lasts, not something flashy. Vanessa crossed her arms, more defensive now. Why keep it all a secret? Why not just tell us? I turned to her. Because I wanted to know how you'd treat me if you thought I had nothing. She froze. You've spent years making it clear I wasn't part of your world, I said. This dinner proved that hadn't changed. The jokes, the backhanded compliments, the assumptions about my finances. You all thought I was still stuck in some garage fixing dented fenders. Noah, she started, but nothing followed. For once, I said, I wanted to see how real the love was. Her face changed then, not anger, not even shame exactly, just a kind of stunned quiet. Like someone had turned on a light she didn't know she needed. I didn't think you were... She started again, then stopped. I guess I never thought about it that way. I nodded. That's the point. She looked away. My mom tried next. Look, honey, we might have misjudged, but can you really blame us for wanting more for you? We just wanted you to be respected. I didn't need a suit and an office to earn respect, I said. I needed space and time, and you gave me neither. No one spoke for a while. Then Vanessa took a slow breath and looked up at me. So what now? I paused. I'd like to host your rehearsal dinner, I said. Here, on the house. Her eyes widened. Why? Because it's a gift, I said, not an apology. I don't owe you anything, but I'm offering something anyway. It landed differently, not as a peace offering, not as surrender. And just a clear line in the sand, respect given freely, not pulled from guilt. Jordan opened his mouth, thought better of it, and nodded once. My father didn't push the investment talk again. My mother stared at the floor. Adam just stood to the side, eyes somewhere between admiration and disbelief. For once, nobody had anything clever to say. And I was fine with that. I wasn't trying to win anymore. I'd already won. Brunch the next Sunday was nothing like McClellan's. No white tablecloths, no wine glasses, no pretense. We met at a small spot on the east side, a cozy, sunlit diner with mismatched chairs, chipped mugs, and the best damn cinnamon pancakes in Austin. I'd helped the owner, Clarissa, open it last year through a mentorship program I'd quietly funded. She ran the kitchen like a drill sergeant, but her heart was all in. The place had soul. My family showed up just after 10. Vanessa wore jeans and sneakers, no designer bag in sight. Jordan followed close behind, holding the door for her without checking his reflection in the glass. My mom smiled when she saw me, tentative, like she wasn't sure what version of me would show up today. My dad nodded stiffly, but didn't comment on the neighborhood or the lack of valet. We slid into a booth. The menus were already on the table, handwritten and laminated. My nephew, Vanessa's 10-year-old, sat next to me, swinging his legs under the table. Uncle Noah, he said between bites of toast, can I come see your garage sometime? I looked down at him, surprised. You want to? He nodded, crumbs on his chin. I want to learn how to fix stuff, like real stuff, not just toys. I smiled. Yeah, buddy, I'll show you. That one moment, that small, unpolished request, meant more than any compliment I'd gotten all week. The meal went easy. No one brought up business plans or money. My dad asked about trout prep. My mom complimented the coffee. Vanessa stayed mostly quiet until the end when she leaned across the table and said, You know that vendor you mentioned for linens? Think you could send me the contact? Ours has been dragging their feet. I nodded. I'll email you this afternoon. She hesitated. Thanks, really. It wasn't much, but it was a start. They didn't look at me the same way anymore. There was a new distance in their eyes. Not coldness, but recognition. They were starting to realize I wasn't someone they needed to shape anymore. And I didn't need their approval like I used to. It wasn't a movie ending, no grand apology, no tearful toast, but it felt real. Respect doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it's in the space people give you. in the quiet nods, in the way they stop correcting you, and in that little boy asking to learn with his hands. The walls that used to stand between us, made of status and pride and image, didn't come crashing down all at once. But brick by brick, they were being chipped away, and that was enough. It was nearly midnight when I finally closed up the shop. The scent of engine oil still lingered in the air, familiar, grounding. A couple of my guys were laughing in the back, rinsing off tools and finishing the last of the day's cleanup. I let the noise wash over me as I sat in my office, the door half open, laptop humming quietly on the desk. The cursor blinked on a blank document. Chapter 1. Burnt Hands, Clean Start. That was the title I'd typed an hour ago, and I hadn't changed it. The book wasn't something I talked about yet, just an idea I'd been nursing for a while, part memoir, part how-to for small business owners with big grit and little guidance. I wanted to write down everything I'd learned the hard way, not to prove anything, just to leave something behind, something real. I stared at my hands on the keyboard. The same hands that had once fumbled spark plugs, that had bled over fryer baskets and froze up during my first big tasting for investors. They were still rough, still scarred in places, but they built things now. And not just cars or restaurants. They built a life. The truth was my family still didn't fully get it. Not really, but they'd stopped trying to put me in a box I never fit in, and I'd stopped waiting for them to clap. That was the freedom. I didn't need their cheers anymore. I had my own rhythm now, my own pride. Outside the office, I could hear Luis, my head chef by night, fishing buddy by weekend, cracking a joke about overcooked salmon, and someone banged a pan like it was a drum. My staff, my team, my people. They weren't just employees. They were part of the thing I built from scratch. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled slow. This wasn't a story about revenge or proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right, about choosing the long road, the dirty road, the one with busted tires and secondhand tools, and making it lead somewhere worth standing. My phone buzzed on the desk, a text from my mom. Ran into someone who said McClellan's is one of the best spots in the city. Told them I knew the owner. We're very proud. I didn't respond right away, but I smiled. Some stories end with applause. Mine ended with ignition, quiet, steady, and mine alone.